Welcome to Alaska TV Weather. I'm meteorologist Amanda Bowen with your forecast for the next couple of days. Those numbers and websites that you see at the bottom of the screen are your best way to get a forecast on the fly and get a hold of us if you need to. You can call 1-800-472-0391 to get the latest recorded forecast for your area. And weather.gov/Alaska is your one-stop shop for all things weather forecast related for your area. You can type in your city or your zip code to get a personalized forecast. And if you ever have any comments or feedback for us, please feel free to email us anytime at nws.ar.tvweather@noaa.gov. Taking a look at hazardous weather over the next couple of days, we have a couple of areas that we have some concern about. The first is a flood warning that's in effect for Mendenhall Lake. That is going to be in effect through at least late this evening, and keep an eye out for updates on that because we could see some extension into the day tomorrow. We are seeing right now some flooding along the lake itself and expecting waters to continue to rise a bit today before slowly falling tonight and into the day on Tuesday. So make sure you're paying extra attention if you are in the Mendenhall Lake area, whether you live there or are recreating in that area, for water or rising water for the Mendenhall Lake area. We also have a flood watch in effect for the area north of the Alaska Range. We're expecting 1 to 2 inches of rain over the next day or so in the Alaska Range, with a maximum of about 2 to 4 inches possible just southeast of Delta Junction in the Alaska Range. So with all of that rain, we are expecting sharp rises on small streams starting as early as tonight with that rain, and then expanding to the rivers that drain the Alaska Range to the north into the day on Tuesday and into Tuesday night. We're also looking at the possibility of some water impacts to the Alaska Highway between Delta Junction and Tok, as well as the Richardson Highway between Black Rapids and Delta Junction. That Delta Junction area is expected to be one of the central locations for any flooding that does occur. So especially if you're in the Delta Junction area, but really anywhere around that, make sure that you're paying attention to water levels and to the latest forecast, and be prepared to take action if necessary if those water levels start rising. Looking at the hydrograph for Mendenhall Lake, the blue line is what we've already seen as far as the water level trend, and the purple line is what is forecast to occur. So as of 2:15 p.m. this afternoon, we were looking at a water level at 10.18 feet, which is in the moderate flood stage. It's expected to peak a little bit later this afternoon or this evening, also in that moderate stage, although it could come up a bit more, and then slowly expect the water levels to drop tonight and into the day on Tuesday. So again, weather.gov/Juneau is going to be the best place for the latest information on that flood warning for the Mendenhall Lake area. Looking at our latest satellite imagery, we can see low pressure circulating in the western Aleutians and bringing some clouds into that area, as well as low pressure, much weaker, but still we can see it in kind of south central portions of the interior, bringing some rain as well as thunderstorms into that area. Other than that, what we see though is some clear skies along the north and west coasts of the state, as well as in the Gulf of Alaska, and that's because that's where we have high pressure dominating. So taking a look at our surface chart, we can see those high pressure centers over the north slope as well as off the west coast and into the southern Gulf. That's what's keeping things dry and mainly clear for those areas. We do have that low pressure over south central. That's going to be sparking along with that trough off to its northeast, sparking some thunderstorms this afternoon, as well as showers spreading from south central, east and south into the Panhandle. Also thunderstorms possible this afternoon and into this evening for portions of the YK Delta, with showers spreading up the west coast to the Chukchi Sea coast. For tonight, we'll see dry along the west side of the state and the north coast in general, although some showers some rain possible with fog along the Chukchi Sea coast tonight. Showers continuing for the eastern interior as well as south central overnight and into the Panhandle. And we'll see that low pressure in the Aleutians continue to move east slowly, but bringing rain as well as fog with it. Plenty of fog along the immediate west coast of the state as well as down into Bristol Bay tonight with high pressure in command over the Bering Sea. For Tuesday, we expect thunderstorms again across the eastern interior from about the southern side of the Brooks Range to the north side of the Alaska Range. Showers for pretty much the rest of the eastern interior and another chance of thunderstorms for the Kuskokwim Delta area down to about Bristol Bay. Showers continuing for south central through the Panhandle, and that low pressure system in the Aleutians weakening, but still strong enough to be bringing some continuing rain and some fog into the Aleutians and the southern Alaska Peninsula for Tuesday. Looking at Wednesday's weather, we have a smaller chance of thunderstorms for the eastern interior, and it's just limited to right near the Canadian border from about the south side of the Brooks Range down to the north side of the Alaska Range. Some drier weather for portions of the Yukon River across the central interior, as we're not seeing any rain chances for that area on Wednesday afternoon. Continuing fog along the west coast as well as the north slope with high pressure remaining in command over those areas. We will see some showers expand across the Brooks Range for Wednesday afternoon and continuing rain mixed in with that fog for the Chukchi Sea coast. Further south, that low pressure continues its march east into the Aleutians. So east of that low from the Aleutians all the way up through the Alaska Peninsula, we're looking at a combination of rain and fog with some showers once we get to the mainland. Showers again possible from south central to the east along the North Gulf Coast and down into the Panhandle for Wednesday afternoon. Looking at temperatures for Tuesday morning, we're looking at mid to upper 40s for much of the interior from north of the Alaska Range to south of the Brooks Range, as well as mid 40s for the west coast. Temperatures right around 40 for the north slope on Tuesday morning and around 50 degrees for south central. Temperatures also around 50 degrees for the Panhandle and upper 40s for the Aleutians on Tuesday morning. For Tuesday afternoon, mild conditions across the interior with temperatures in the mid to upper 60s. Temperatures cooler along the west coast with peaks around the upper 40s to lower 50s, about 54 at Nome, 52 at Savunga on Tuesday afternoon. Temperatures warmer along the north slope with highs in the upper 40s to low 50s there and upper 50s to around 60 in the Panhandle. For Wednesday morning, pretty similar to what we're expecting for Tuesday morning, maybe a couple of degrees cooler from about the Brooks Range down through the Yukon Flats, where we're expecting temperatures in the low to mid 40s. Still around 40 for the north slope, around 50 for south central, as well as the Panhandle on Wednesday morning. Wednesday afternoon looking a little bit warmer than Tuesday with temperatures into the upper 60s for much of the interior and as well as the Matsu Valley area. South central looking at mid 60s with around 60 for the Kenai Peninsula, upper 50s to around 60 for the Panhandle.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
On to a look at your aviation forecast. For Tuesday morning, we're expecting IFR conditions in the higher terrain of the Panhandle as well as the southeastern interior from the Canadian border with the Yukon River down through the Wrangell-St. Elias Mountains. IFR conditions mostly staying off the North Slope coast, but coming into the west coast a bit, including St. Lawrence Island and the Seward Peninsula. IFR conditions also expected for much of the Bering Sea, including the Aleutians. For Tuesday afternoon, We are looking at improvement over much of the mainland to VFR, but MVFR conditions sticking around for the eastern Brooks Range as well as the southeastern interior. Still some IFR hanging around for the higher terrain of the Panhandle as well as the northern Panhandle areas and most of the Bering Sea, including the Aleutians and into the southern Alaska Peninsula. For Wednesday morning, IFR returning to most of the Panhandle as well as parts of the Wrangell St. Elias Mountains. Also IFR for the Chukchi Sea coast into the western Brooks Range and the western tip of Seward Peninsula. IFR conditions also for the southern Alaska Peninsula as well as much of the Bering Sea and the Aleutians on Wednesday morning. Wednesday afternoon, we do see quite a lot of improvement though. Some MVFR conditions lingering around the North Slope and the Chukchi Sea coast, as well as southeast interior. Panhandle mostly improving to MVFR conditions for Wednesday afternoon. Those IFR conditions sticking around though for much of the Bering Sea and the Aleutians. Pass conditions on Tuesday, Anaktuvuk Pass expected to be MVFR all day, as well as Adigan Pass MVFR on Tuesday. Lake Clark and Merrill Passes both expected to be VFR on Tuesday, as well as Rainy Pass VFR on Tuesday. Windy Pass MVFR in the morning, but improving to VFR in the afternoon. Isabel Pass starting out at IFR on Tuesday morning, but improving to MVFR during the afternoon hours. Same story at Mentasta Pass, IFR in the morning, improving to MVFR in the afternoon. Tanita Pass MVFR all day on Tuesday. Portage Pass starting out VFR, but actually deteriorating to MVFR during the afternoon hours on Tuesday. And both Chilkoot and White Passes starting out IFR Tuesday morning and improving to MVFR Tuesday afternoon. Freezing levels anywhere from about 8 to 12,000 feet in the northern Gulf, and one area of cooler air bringing that freezing level down to about 6,000 feet over the central Aleutians. For icing on Tuesday, a couple of areas over the North Slope above about 8,000 feet, isolated moderate icing, and over the western Alaska Range above 9,000 feet, some isolated moderate icing. Jet stream winds on Tuesday, we are looking at a couple of players. We've got high pressure approaching from the south in the northern Gulf. So in an arc around that high pressure system, we see 115 knot winds on the west side over the Aleutians. That's going to be 115 knots out of the south to about 90 knots out of the southwest over the southern Bering Sea, 110 knots out of the west over the Alaska Peninsula to about 70 knots out of the west for the actual northern Gulf itself. Low pressure over the Panhandle area with 55 to 75 knot winds around that low pressure system. And then a secondary jet over eastern Russia, peaking at about 95 knots out of the northeast. 9,000 foot winds on Tuesday. Not much happening over the mainland. Our main player is going to be that low pressure in the western Aleutians, and southeast of that low over the eastern Aleutians actually have 60 knot winds out of the south. Those are going to be our strongest winds. Light winds 5 knots over the Panhandle, 25 to 30 knots out of the west and northwest over the Gulf, and just about 10 knots over much of the northern Bering Sea. For 3,000 foot winds on Tuesday, we have that same low pressure system, our main player over the western Aleutians. So we'll see winds in a counterclockwise direction around that low, peaking about 40 knots out of the south, just south of the eastern Aleutians. About 30 to 35 knots on the north and northeast side of that low. Those winds are going to be out of the east and southeast. Also 20 to 30 knots out of the west and northwest in the northern Gulf. 5 knots over most of the mainland, including the Panhandle, and 10 to maybe as high as 20 knots out of the west and northwest over the North Slope for Tuesday. Turbulence below 3,000 feet along the Chukchi Sea coast, below 4,000 feet for the Aleutians, and below 6,000 feet for parts of the Panhandle.
Hello, I'm a GOES-R series weather satellite orbiting 22,000 miles above Earth. I can see a lot of cool stuff from up here, and I take pictures of it with my spiffy camera that has 16 different settings. I have such good eyesight, I can see clouds, snow, smoke, smog, and ash, so I can warn you about dangerous conditions and help you avoid them. When storms are brewing, I watch them closely and help with hurricane, tornado, and flood warnings to help keep you safe. And my lightning mapper tracks lightning strikes way up in the sky, even through dark, dense clouds. I also help with search and rescue missions. I listen for distress signals from emergency beacons and tell search and rescue teams just where to find people who need help. But even when I'm keeping a close eye on Earth, I'm monitoring weather out here in space, too. I watch the sun for big bursts of energy, which send waves of radiation toward Earth that can affect power grids, block communication with planes, cause errors in GPS, and damage satellites. Space weather is also very dangerous for astronauts working outside the International Space Station. I warn them so they can get inside where they'll be safe. So the next time you watch a weather report or check your phone for the forecast, remember, that's me. So look to the sky and wave. I'll be here. Whoa! Things are looking pretty bad down there. But don't worry. I'm going to give weather forecasters a heads up and help you stay safe. I'm a GOZAR series weather satellite, and one of my jobs is to keep an eye on Earth's weather as I orbit above. But I'm 22,000 miles above Earth. How does your local weather forecaster know what I see all the way up here? First, I have to figure out what's going on. I point my special camera at the Earth and take pictures of the clouds I see below. My pictures show where the clouds are, but I also take lots of other notes about the clouds. For example, how high they reach into the atmosphere, how much rain they might cause, and when a severe storm may be forming. But I can't keep all of this information to myself. I have to share it with weather forecasters down on Earth. A big antenna is waiting for my call. Since I'm a satellite, I send my pictures and notes in a computer language of ones and zeros. Luckily, the antenna speaks my language. Computers connected to the antenna organize my notes and combine all of the pictures and cloud information and translate them into weather maps. They send a version of the maps back up to me. I'll hold on to these for later. Another copy of the maps is split into smaller pieces. This helps the maps move faster from one place to another. The map pieces are then sent for processing before being sent back up in the sky to a communication satellite. From there, the maps are picked up by antennas at the National Weather Service forecast offices in each region. There are more than 100 offices. I also take the maps that I received and send them out to companies that specialize in making the maps more colorful and better for viewing on TVs and computers. The colorful maps and the maps from the forecast offices then go to your local weather forecaster. The forecaster combines the information from these maps with lots of other information, like model forecast data and radar data, to make predictions about the upcoming weather in your area. And that's how I help you find out if bad weather is going to ruin your afternoon plans. You're welcome. Soon it will be my time to shine. in outer space. I'm the GOES-R satellite. That stands for Geostationary Operational Environmental Satellite. And the R stands for my order in this series of weather satellites. Like my older siblings before me, I'll do a lot for watching weather, but I'm pretty special because I have a lot of new gadgets. I'm originally from Colorado, but my journey to space has a few stops along the way. I'll be shipped in a very special satellite shipping container to Kennedy Space Center. Moving me around is not easy. I'm over 18 feet wide and weigh 6,000 pounds. And then things get really exciting. I get loaded onto an Atlas V541 launch vehicle. A big rocket! Woo! After Atlas and I blast off together, my compartment separates from the launch vehicle and I continue to climb higher and higher. Then I break away completely and unfurl my solar panel and antenna. After that, I have to use my thrusters to get into just the right position, 22,000 miles above the ground and traveling 1.9 miles per second to keep up with Earth's rotation. And then I can officially start my job along with my fellow GOES sisters, where I take advanced pictures for more accurate weather forecasts, map lightning in real time, and improve the monitoring of the sun's activity. It's going to be so awesome! I can't wait!
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back for a look at your marine forecast. Starting with a look at the sea ice edge, we can see there's now open area between the Chukchi Sea and the Beaufort Sea. We have a couple of small patches of low concentration ice left outside of Smith Bay, probably another couple of small patches elsewhere, but still that area has opened up along the north coast of the state, with no ice right along the coast anywhere in the state. For southeast on Tuesday, we're looking at fairly light winds generally out of the east and south, 10 knots to 15 knots. Seas in the 7 to 8 foot range for the Gulf and 2 to 3 feet for those inside waterways on Tuesday. Looking ahead into Wednesday, winds actually coming down even a little bit more to 10 knots across the board. Still generally westerly flow in the Gulf, but some easterly flow in the North Gulf and southerly flow for the inside waterways. Tuesday for South Central, we're looking at 10 to 15 knot winds with some easterly and northeasterly flow for the Northern Gulf, some westerly flow offshore for the Barrens, and northerly flow at about 10 knots in the Cook Inlet. For Wednesday, winds also coming down here a little bit on Wednesday to 10 knots with a more consistent direction out of the east. Seas just 2 to 4 feet across the board for South Central on Wednesday. Tuesday for the Alaska Peninsula and Kodiak Island, 10 to 20 knots with the highest winds on the south side of the peninsula. Generally winds out of the east and southeast, although we will see some westerly and southwesterly flow around Kodiak Island. Seas 5 to 6 feet on the Gulf side and 2 to 4 feet for the Bering Sea side of the peninsula. On Wednesday, winds come down a little bit more, 10 to 15 knots out of the southwest across the board. Seas coming down to 4 to 5 feet for the Gulf side and just 1 to 3 feet for the Bering Sea side. For Tuesday in the Aleutian chain, we'll see winds generally around 20 knots, as low as about 15 to as high as about 25 knots in the western Aleutians. And that direction is going to be generally out of the south, although some northwesterly flow for the western Aleutians. Seas 7 to 9 feet on the south side of the Aleutians and about 5 to 6 feet on the north side, with seas around 8 feet for the western Aleutians on Tuesday. Heading into Wednesday, those winds are coming down a bit, 15 to 20 knots across the board, generally south and southwesterly flow, and seas 6 to 7 feet on the south side of the chain and 4 to 6 feet on the north side of the chain. For Tuesday along the west coast, 10 to 25 knot winds, although generally 10 to 15 knots. We've got those highest winds just east of the Pribilofs. That's going to be 25 knots out of the east. Seas 6 to 7 feet over the open Bering Sea, and 2 to 4 feet closer to the mainland over the Bering. For Wednesday, winds coming down just a little bit, 10 to about 20 knots, again with those highest winds just east of the Pribilofs, about 20 knots out of the southeast, 10 knots out of the west for Norton Sound, and 15 knots out of the southwest just east of St. Lawrence Island. Seas also coming down a little bit, 2 to 5 feet across the entire west coast for Wednesday. For Tuesday, along the Arctic coast, 15 knots along most of the North Slope out of the south, but we do have some easterly flow at about 10 knots just north of Kaktovik. For the Chukchi Sea, that's where we'll see our highest winds, 25 knots out of the south and about 15 to 20 knots out of the south and southwest through the Bering Strait. Looking at seas 2 to 3 feet along the North Slope and 4 to 6 feet along the Chukchi Sea coast. For Wednesday, we see those winds come down a little bit along the Chukchi Sea, 15 to 20 knots, and 10 to 15 knots still along the North Slope. Still mostly westerly flow along the North Slope with some southeasterly flow just north of Kaktovik, and southerly flow along the Chukchi Sea, but we will see some westerly flow off the area between Point Leia and Wainwright on Wednesday. Taking a look at what we have in store for tonight, a reminder, we have that flood warning in effect for Mendenhall Lake, so keep an eye out for floodwaters and rising waters if you're in that area. We also have the flood watch in effect for the eastern interior north of the Alaska Range, with heavy rain expected in the Alaska Range tonight and into tomorrow, so make sure that you are aware of the water situation. Thanks so much for watching Alaska TV Weather.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.